Okay, the recording's on, and we're just about at 5:30, Paul. So
Okay, are we going to do committee of the whole first, or what do you want to do?
That's where we have the first result.
yeah, we've got the Frisbee golf presentation. So if we do that on committee of the whole first, that would be nice.
Okay, so can I click here to join?
No, you joined already. You're on my phone.
All right, Rich Young. Oh, okay.
All right.
Hold on here. The committee of the whole is actually just has one item on it, and that's the Airbnb thing. What did we? Was there an amended agenda, Tiffany, that I missed? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I sent it to you. Do you want me to resend it?
No. Let me just. Sorry. Hold on. It was today.
Yeah.
Ah, there it is. 10:21 a.m. Okay. Not on a, okay, presentation Frisbee golf by Rich Long. Got it. Okay, so I will call to order committee of the whole for Tuesday, November 17th. Let the record show that all committee members are present. Okay, so first item on our agenda is a presentation Frisbee golf by Rich Longer. I assume Rich is the person under the Chris Shaweri box.
Yes, and I had emailed you the items that Richard sent along to everybody. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to put them up on the screen or not. But
I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Let's see here. Share the screen.
I'm joined. This is Mike from the disc golf presentation. I've joined in on the phone. I can see.
We can hear you, Mike.
I'm not doubled, am I? I'm not on the phone and the video.
Nope.
Okay, perfect. Because I can see what's going on. I don't know if you guys can see me or not. I'm on Zoom, but it's not giving me any video or audio.
Okay, we can hear you, Mike.
Perfect. I'm here. See your slides.
All right. Good to go.
Yes.
All right. Special thanks, Mayor and Council, for your time this evening. Mike and I are both honored to be here with our public disc golf proposal for the city of Olean. My name's Rich Longer. I am one of two packaging engineers at Zippo Manufacturing. I live close to Olean with my wife and two sons, and we both really enjoy the local community parks. As you know, the city rec department is constantly seeking new ways to offer activities. And we met with Chris and the mayor a couple weeks ago and discussed the use of Gargoyle Park for a disc golf course. It's seen a decrease in activities the last few years, and we think that would be the perfect remedy to reinvent the park and get people outdoors and active. So I'm excited to present this proposal with their support, and I ask for the council's guidance and approval on a 9-hole disc golf course in spring of next year. So for anyone not familiar with disc golf, it is easiest explained as golf with a Frisbee. Same rules apply, etiquette, camaraderie. The goal is to get your disc into the basket with the fewest amount of throws. It uses a suspended catching device called a basket. These are made of metal, about waist high, and they catch the disc out of midair. Unlike golf, there are 18 and 9-hole courses that utilize par 3s, 4s, and 5s. But because discs do not travel as far as golf balls, they're about a third in size and measured in feet instead of yards. Since its inception in 1978, disc golf has been one of the fastest growing sports in the country. There are currently 7,000 courses in the United States, about half of golf course count, which is an impressive statistic if you consider that golf started a century earlier. The Professional Disc Golf Association has 60,000 active members, and it's growing. Membership is comprised of people that are paying $50 to play 5 or more tournaments a year. These are amateurs and professionals alike. Besides that, there are also tens of millions of recreational players. Many would argue that disc golf is the golf of the future. I encourage those watching and the council members. Next Tuesday at 8 p.m. is the United States Dynamic Disc Championship on ESPN. 2020, this will be the first year that disc golf is televised on mainstream media. That's me. I've been playing disc golf for about 4 years since graduating Michigan State. It was competitive. It was affordable, it was fun, and satisfied my desire to get out my competitive urges at tournaments and leagues. When our family moved to this area from Ohio, I found what I call this the black hole of disc golf, because from this spot in the Twin Tiers, it's about an hour's drive to the nearest course. The closest course is Houghton College, Evergreen Park, South and Kane, and Hawks Landing in Eden, New York. Houghton College installed their 18-hole course last year, and they had such a positive response. They're installing their second 18 holes. Hawks Landing in Eden, New York is a pay-to-play course with a fully stocked pro shop. So for having one of the largest populations in the state of New York has relatively low amount of disc golf courses. The only states with less courses per capita are Rhode Island and New Jersey. It's worth pointing out that Rhode Island is smaller than Cattaraugus County, and Cattaraugus County has 0 public disc golf courses. So the benefits to the Olean community are similar to what golf gives, but is at a fraction of the cost. People play disc golf to socialize with their family members, with their friends, to compete against peers, get outside, exercise, and be in nature. I think one of the biggest reasons people are switching to disc golf is its affordability. A starter set of 3 discs is about $20 compared to what you'd pay for golf clubs. And 90% of disc golf courses are in city parks and free to the public. The sport is pretty easy to pick up. My dad's 67, he plays with me, and my son, who's 6 years old, plays with me as well. In a time when people are busy, it only takes about 1 to 2 hours to play a round of disc golf. And then as far as tournaments go, for people who take it a little more serious, the city could collect a nominal fee and make some money on that front. I also worth pointing out that Mike and I probably noticed this past year that some of the tournaments up in Buffalo and Rochester, there's so many new disc golf course players that these tournaments are filling up within a day of registration, 70 to 100 players.
77 players or 88 players in 3 minutes for the last tournament I played in. At 7:03, registration was full, and it opened at 7 p.m. By 7:03, registration was full. It was full so much that he had to have another tournament for the AM players the next week, the beginners, is what he did. He decided to hold a second tournament because all the people had to be rejected from the tournament.
So it's growing. The sport is definitely growing. But again, the biggest benefit is that anyone can play it, of all ages and economic status. So comparing those to other park activities, you simply cannot beat disc golf. You get the most bang for your buck. Here's some examples: tennis and basketball courts cost quite a bit more, and you can't have as many people enjoying them at the same time. So far, since talking to the mayor and Chris, I've reached out, getting quotes on different things, and everyone I've talked to has been very supportive. I'm pleased to share this letter of support from the St. Bonaventure's coordinator of intramural and club sports, Margaret Hickey. She shared that St. Bonaventure had its first disc golf intramurals. They purchased 9 portable baskets this past fall. And of the 15 students that participated, several of them approached her about wanting a permanent disc golf course that they could enjoy. Obviously, St. Bonaventure students have a history of enjoying recreation and being stewards of the park. On the left, I got another letter of support from the YMCA. The program director, Megan Jennings, thought disc golf could be a great addition to the community parks as it ties into the YMCA's commitment to youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility. And then on the right are some other YMCA's in the country that have used disc golf in their programs. So what makes a great disc golf course? One of the biggest things is location. Gargoyle Park is spacious, quiet, great place for people to disconnect from noise, traffic, and stress, just like they would want on a regular golf course. Also, another bonus is its proximity to the Riverwalk Trail. We think that would act as a catalyst to passerby walkers who are curious to try disc golf for themselves. Number one goal of any disc golf course design is safety. Mike has pointed out, we do not want holes bordering walking paths or getting close to the pavilion. The mayor emphasized the importance of that as well. We don't want to interfere with cookouts and picnics and the playground. So an updated layout, which you'll see a little bit, has been distanced from those areas. So what parts of a disc golf course? Number one are the disc golf baskets. There's several different brands out there, and the proposal here has selected the one on the right, the veteran basket, because of its durability, its affordability. It comes with arrows for the next hole. These run $295 wholesale. They include the sleeves, locks, and a 25-year warranty. Signage is also extremely important. It gives players the information about the length, the terrain, out of bounds areas. It also legitimizes the sport as being organized to other park users. Being it's going into an area with not many disc golfers, we think having beginner tees is essential. Secondary would be another set of advanced tees. And Carpies, a local printer, quoted $25 for each tee. Those would be laminated to an aluminum plate and attached to a wooden or powder-coated steel post. Another bonus of courses is having a course kiosk, welcomes players to the course and shows the course map as well as information about local clinics, leagues, tournaments, and the rules of disc golf. There are a large variety of tee pads, and they range from grass, natural pads, to pebble, to artificial turf pads, to the more premium concrete and paver pads. So while working on this project, I was fortunate to meet Dan Neely. He's a local landscaper and contractor who used to play disc golf. So he gave us a generous discount for paver tee pads you see on the right. The materials for nine of those pads are $3,000. He discounted his labor to be $1,350. And I personally think that pads at Gargoyle Park should be made of stone. Just nature of the course. And then last part of the budget we have in here is the community outreach. So the Twin Tiers Disc Golf Club would be founded in Olean, New York. It would be dedicated to growing the sport in the community through leagues and tournaments. And since people cannot enjoy what they don't know exists, we recommend 5% of the budget goes towards purchasing discs, wholesale for $5 a piece, and donating them to participants at a clinic sometime in the spring. The people on the right are pros of dynamic discs. They're incentivized to host these clinics and provide instruction, and I think they set up their merchandise to sell as well. So that's it. That's all the components of of a premium disc golf course at Gargoyle Park. Total budget for the project is $9,000. Little maintenance would be needed as far as the mowing. It's all on existing mowed land. There's also an option to do 18 holes. And we mapped out an 18-hole layout as well. That would be another 9,000, but this could be added at any point. And in my opinion, focusing our efforts on a 9-hole course will give us the best layout and design in the future. So, I wanted to thank Chris and again for working hard to allow us to share the proposal to the council today. That's all I had. Any questions?
I have none. Anyone else? That's great. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, our family plays disc golf in Vermont, and it's a lot of fun, and you don't have to be athletic to do it. I've actually gotten it into the net a couple times. I think it's a great idea. And one of the things that maybe we could think of as far as raising the funds is having sponsors for each hole. We did that with the signs in each park. Different companies sponsored the signs, so they, put in so much for each sign. So that might be an idea to help us pay for it.
That's a great point. The courses in Ohio I've been a part of, they've been raised through sponsorship. I feel like $500 a hole is reasonable, which would raise about $4,500. But I thought it would be to put in a full course. I'm just curious if there's any funds to maybe match that with any city budget.
I think that's definitely something we could consider as a council, as a city. I think it would be not a bad idea, especially if the community interest was such that there was a portion that was going to be funded via sponsorships. That I think it would be something we would definitely consider from a matching perspective. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Paul, if I may,
Please.
I think it's a great idea. It's funny you use the snapshot of the article when myself and some of the council members organized with Bonner Response to paint Gargoyle Park, the pavilion down there. In fact, shortly after that, I did a proposal on this exact thing. I saw guys down there playing disc golf, and I went over and I asked them what they were up to, and they were explaining to me that Gargoyle was the perfect location, and I think they were just using trees at the time. They around Gargoyle Park, there were no nets. They were just taking frisbees and trying to get it as close to a tree as possible. And what's that?
That's how we started.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, I think we need to be open-minded and do whatever we can to get our park spaces activated again. And that it's a beautiful location down there. The pavilion now has been repainted, and I think, like you said, bang for your buck to put these. What do you call them? Nets?
Baskets.
Baskets. To put the baskets in and create to create a course that you don't need to tear down any trees for. You're building a course right in the beauty of that park space, and it totally makes sense to me, and I'm fully in favor of it. I think it's an excellent idea, and the thought of bringing St. Bonaventure University a little bit closer and tied to Olean, to as long as it gets used. I guess that's what my only concern is. And especially if you guys take the challenge of building up a league and things like that, I guess I would want to make sure, and it sounds like you guys have done a ton more research on it than I have, to make sure the course would be eligible for whatever type of tournament. If there was a tournament that could be held there, we would want to definitely make sure that the course was to the standard of those specifications to try to bring in people from outside our community. I think that it would be worth the money and time spent.
Can you unshare the screen here, whoever is?
Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
like watching that kid
So,
play golf.
one thing I wanted to say to John's point too, one of the things we keep talking about is wanting to go to this like citywide network of bike trails and access via non-automobile means, right? And Gargoyle Park is tied via the river trail to this whole network, and it could be really something that would be make that more of a destination than it already is. So
That's true. The other thing, Paul, to keep in mind, we have a new hotel that's going to be opening, and going straight down the road and going to end up at Bonaventure, turn right, and you end up at Gargoyle. It'd be great for tournaments. It would be something that you could promote when you're going to have a tournament for people across New York State or the country to come and stay. So that's another plus.
definitely.
Yep.
Okay.
So then, from what I'm hearing from everybody, we will move forward with talking to the two individuals here about this, and it'll probably come up at budget time again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. I think something like this, there's no question to me that it's something we should do wherever we have to pull funds from for it.
It sounds like the golfers should start raising some money there.
What's that now?
Does it sound like the golfers should start raising some money?
Who's speaking?
That was Mike, it sounds like.
Oh.
Because if we can start doing some fundraisers, I have baskets to set up temporary at the course, and we can actually draw some people in there and start raising some money to come up with the $4,500 of matching money.
I think what I'm getting from the council right now is that you would be safe to assume that there would be matching money from the council.
Mhm.
Rich, you understand where I'm from?
What's that?
I'm willing to put my baskets to use for us to have the fundraising tournaments that we need to have.
Yeah, that's
That's
fantastic. That's what I wanted, is the council's blessing and approval to start. If we're going to raise money, that it's going to go to a course. And I've seen it work at courses in Ohio. Businesses are happy to they get their name on a T sign for 5 years or whatever time frame you establish. And to John's point about making sure the course is eligible for tournaments, which is another residual income, and getting people traveling and eating out in the community. Without having the tee pads, people, courses have tournaments like that, but it's kind of, that's one of the biggest complaints you'll hear from serious players, is complaining about tee pads. You generate a lot of power off the surface of a hard tee pad, so that, having the city matched funds would be phenomenal. I think that the tee pads are the other half of the course from that budget that would make it a premium course for the whole surrounding area.
It's a good point. We should do it right. If we're going to do it, we should do it right.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, we'll work with you guys to move this forward. So
Thank you, Mayor.
thank you, everybody on the
Thank you.
so this is a
Thank you,
great
everybody.
idea. This is this is moving, especially a great idea for Gargoyle. I think it'll move Gargoyle forward.
Mhm. And I think it's a great idea to pull in St. Bonaventure. I think that's a plus.
Rich did the legwork on that. He's got their support already taken care of. So
Great.
It's not working.
All right,
It's
thank
fun.
you.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Yep.
you very much for coming. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. So we can move on to item 3 on our agenda, which is unfinished business, PL 6120 by Alderman Crawford, to amend the City of Olean Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Housing Code, to include Article 4, short-term rental registration and licensing. Alderman Crawford.
Okay, thank you, Paul. We've gone over this a number of times now. Most of you understand and have provided feedback. We have made a couple of revisions based on recommendations from the city attorney as well as Captain Jennings and code enforcement. So the current draft now has been updated to include, and I just want to give you essentially what the changes are. If you remember, our last conversation was to include, based on the mayor's recommendation, the planning board as, so the code enforcement office shall refer any application for the short-term rental unit located in an R1, R2, or R3 to the planning board for site review to determine the suitability of the rental unit at the proposed location. So coming out of our last meeting, we felt, and I believe the mayor recommended that the planning board could handle that additional, whatever you want to call it, workload or, and so.
John, the reason I'm on this meeting is I oversee the planning board, and I went through Article 9 of the zoning ordinance. That's what the planning board is governed by to operate within its purview and make decisions. And I couldn't find any criteria that allows us as a planning board to determine the suitability of short-term rental.
Okay.
It's not here.
You know, it's also something like I went through and I read the entire thing about the criteria for this and how every inspection is done by code enforcement. Now, when we have something before the planning board, we actually go and visit the commercial sites. Now, I don't know that it would be appropriate for the planning board members to go into someone's home. Instead, code enforcement's doing that. And under Article 9, we have to hold a public hearing for everything that we do. And under Article 9, we do site plan review and special use permits prior to the issuance of a building permit. There are no building permits here.
Okay. So I guess I'm open to suggestions or recommendations how to clean this up.
So we would just assuming that it went forward as it's proposed, and it were to pass, then we would do an enabling statute amending the planning board's powers under a local law to allow them to do the site plan review for the short-term rental units.
Right. Typically with any building permit, even just a change of use. So if you're changing it from a single family home to a 2-family home to a short-term rental to essentially anything under the building code that would change it from its use. And I believe our zoning also requires such a thing that you would, if you're changing the use, you would then get a building permit for it. Whether you're building anything or not, that is the mechanism that enacts a lot of these other things like zoning and stuff like that.
See, where I'm coming from is I don't do housing to that degree. We're not certified code officers. So it would be more appropriate for them, the ones that are inspecting it, to make the determinations. According to this document, it even says that if there's an appeal, it goes to the fire chief. That I think would still belong under the code enforcement division instead of the planning board's role.
So this kind of goes back to the part of the discussion that involved, maybe it's the code enforcement office that makes the determination, but the burden would be on them to solicit feedback from the neighbors and within the appropriate radius of that potential, location. And then it goes to the planning board if there's negative feedback or some kind of
like how we do a curb cut. If somebody has a complaint about it and then
Right.
DPW makes the ruling and you want to appeal it, it comes to the council. In this situation, if someone wanted to appeal it, they could appeal it to the planning board for review.
Well, see, here's something else with it.
Well, why not to the council?
The planning board has no enforcement power. We use code enforcement and the code enforcement officers to handle any deficiencies. So it still wouldn't make sense for it to come to the planning board.
Yep.
We don't have that power under Article 9 or in this document.
So
And
why don't we,
Within
why
our
don't we-
pur-
I'm sorry, Carrie, I didn't mean to step on you.
No, it's okay.
Why don't we treat it like a curb cut? Like I think Nick just interjected there. Well, like if so the code enforcement office receives the request. They put a thing out there that says anybody within whatever the right amount of proximity to this location is. If you have an issue with it, let us know. If there is feedback on it, then it comes back to the council.
I'm content with that.
I'm content with that. John?
Tend to that, except, with a curb cut, you literally have to go to the property owners and have them sign a letter saying that they don't object to it. And we're talking about someone staying at a property. Wouldn't we want at least the same level of the surrounding property owners' support?
Now, I would
Just saying,
I would be fine with that. If that's what the rule is to get, I mean, listen, you guys know what my stipulation's always been is to give the people that live in this community a voice.
Yep.
Because they're going to be the ones calling us if there are. So how does the curb cut process work? If that could be used where, like what Linda's saying, the neighbors immediately on either side, adjacent, I don't know, within 100 feet of the property have to sign that they're okay with it, and then we do it. The council is the appeal. I'm fine with that if that's workable. Nick?
I am too. I think that's a good idea.
Can you, I'd like Director Ring to chime in on this if he could, because Linda mentioned this in the last meeting, and I don't think Bob was here for that meeting. But like I recently went through a curb cut process for one of my clients, and you just have to sign a form stating that you delivered the letters. You don't have to have the neighbors sign off that they received them. They don't have to sign off that they're giving you permission. You just have to deliver them to the neighbors that DPW deems within their parameters who are affected by the curb cut, at which point then the neighbors can call and essentially bitch at DPW about the curb cut or not, or say nothing, but there's no like signing off from the neighbors.
Oh, I guess I went above and beyond because I had people sign off.
Oh,
I didn't want anything to come back to where someone, had a problem. So I did have them sign off. I guess I did my due diligence.
I mean, at the end of the day, how many Airbnbs are even in the city of Olean, right? Like,
Right. They'll probably grow.
well, and if they do, then I don't know. Maybe we'll go back and revisit it. We seem to like doing that. So
Airbnb USA.
Bob, are you there? Or are you frozen? We may have lost him. He's frozen on my screen. I don't know if he
was telling me he's practicing miming.
Nick, are you on?
I'm on.
Do you have any thoughts or advice on that?
It just seems like we all know what the end result we want, and that's for the public to have an input and there to be an appeals process for a denial of a permit. It's how we're getting there is where it seems to be we're caught up on it. Either, I like the idea that's been proposed where we do it similar to the codes determine who gets a letter. Everybody gets a letter. They can object to codes. Codes can make the initial determination. If the people don't like it, they can appeal it to the council. If other guy doesn't like it, he can appeal it to the council. And if a permit were to get revoked, it would go to the council anyways to review the permit. So it seems like the council has a little bit more of a vested role in this than just, offering a public forum.
So what, can I ask something? Maybe this is to you, Nick. Let's say we have a submission for something like this, and there's a neighbor that just doesn't want this kind of business next door to them in their residential neighborhood. what kind of criteria is codes
Um,
going by to make the
Sorry, my
determination?
connection is bad. I think I was.
What is the criteria that they're using?
Yeah,
I'm
like,
not
so
sure.
they get a submission as to whether this use should be allowed.
Correct.
What is the criteria? Is it in, I can't recall all the text from John's document, but what are they basing their approval or disapproval on?
Well, one of it has to do with size. It has to do with safety. I know those are the two big things that would trigger codes involvement.
Mhm.
Then they're going to look at, parking. They would take a look at whether or not they think it's
I
suitable
remember
for.
those items, but
Yeah.
what kind of weight does a neighbor that doesn't want this kind of activity on their street or next door, what kind of
Well, I
weight
think
does that hold?
I think codes is going to have to balance. They're going to have to balance the two.
Mhm.
And I think that's where the main thing you want to make sure is that the applicant, whether he's denied a permit or not, is that he has due process to some remedy if they turn him down for the permit. And if they turn him down based on that neighbor making a statement, he needs to have they need to have a place where they can go to appeal that decision and put some burden back onto the neighbor to establish why couldn't he have a place there? Was he proven to be irresponsible? Does he have a bad track record with codes? Shift the burden a little bit back to the person who's saying no, instead of making the guy that's applying for it to establish why this other neighbor's concerns aren't really there. I mean, we need to know what the concerns are first.
Okay, and we're saying right now with what we're talking, it would come back to the council, not involve the planning board, or we're still talking?
Well, that's where you guys are kind of hashing it out. I mean, we can make it go to the planning board. We can rewrite part of the planning board's duties under Chapter 19 to give them the authority to hear the appeals on this particular permit. We can easily do that. I think what Carrie's getting at is that they deal with parking lots and green space. They don't deal with houses. So
Yeah,
I think
we
that's
deal with like natural features, built features, lighting, drainage, green space, parking, and commercial uses generally.
Not
So,
carbon sectors and.
Right. That would be kind of like the planning board dealing with a rental housing property inspection.
Right.
Like, why are we getting into housing now?
Right.
because it's a business, and who deals, and again, forgive me if it's the zoning board or the planning board, but if I have my house and now I want to run a business out of my house and I need to get a variance, which organization is the one that essentially I have to go before?
The zoning board.
The zoning board.
The zoning does home occupations, not the planning board.
So,
Right.
so would this not, I guess, why did we exclude the zoning board as a possible remedy? Any thoughts on that?
My one thought
I
would be
can't
that-
recall other than it was my original recommendation to go to the zoning board. But I can't recall why there was a reason why we switched to the planning board, and I can't for the life of me think of what it is right now.
somebody mentioned the planning board, and that just made sense because if you're in a business location, it's already zoned business. Then typically, if you're changing from like a hair salon to a restaurant, you'd go to the planning board because it's a change of use amongst.
Commercial.
Right, exactly. That's my thought process. I didn't realize, I'm not the lawyer here. So when you guys said planning board, I was like, let's do it.
So would we be able to, essentially just, and again, Nick, this is because you have a more intricate knowledge of how the two organizations act. Could we not just replace planning board with zoning board? Would that not be a better?
I think we can, with the caveat that I need to double check the state statute for zoning, which sets up what our zoning board can and can't do. I know that the planning board is not as specific as to what duties they can do. We can enable them to do other duties easily. If we can do the same with the zoning board, then I don't see an issue. I just want to check that state law to make sure we're not preempted from giving them a duty or responsibility that they're otherwise prohibited from doing.
Okay, all right, so I guess my preference would be that, and I'll give you reason why, but my preference would be that if we could at least check that out first and see if the zoning board would be better suited, since
Yeah,
the way I view it is you have what was a residential property, and now, even though people are staying there, it's becoming a business. And so if that's the zoning board, and you know, if there's still the process in place where there's a hearing and people and the residents have an ability to go before them and voice their concerns, if that's all still in, you know, under the zoning board, then I guess I would prefer that rather than the council being the appeal process. I would say that could be the default, because we got in the Forest Hills debacle, the council was the default a couple of years ago, and we're like, why the heck is this on the council? You know, a very similar situation could be, you know, all of a sudden now we're deciding where an Airbnb is. That's not necessarily our specialty. So I guess that's my 2 cents.
no, and that's not the point, as you originally stated, John, was we need to have an ability for both the neighbor and the applicant to be heard. You know, on what their ideas are, and you're right on how we're going about it.
So my only rebuke to John on that argument, though, is that essentially then any place that is being rented is considered a business. I mean, that's kind of, I consider that a stretch. But I also firmly believe that we should.
It's a corporation, Kevin. Airbnb is a corporation.
Airbnb is just like using Zillow to rent your apartment that you have. So then all landlords would then become rental property, you know, would become businesses, at which point they'd all have to go in front of the zoning board for a change to commercial. That would be my argument with this slippery slope. My other thing is that I don't think that the city should have ever deemed it necessary to have 2 separate boards. I think that the council is the elected officials that should handle pretty much all of these kind of workings, and I don't think we should have a zoning or planning board. So when things like this can come to us, I think we should take them. So
I think that's a slippery slope, Kevin. I think the zoning and the planning board, they are required to take training to understand the parameters they have to work within. And I think, I mean, can you imagine all of the things that come in front of zoning and planning coming to the council? And I think our position is to represent our constituents. And then I think you're getting into a real sticky situation, because if I have a constituent in Ward 1 that wants to do something, I'm going to work hard to help him do that. So you're putting us kind of in an awkward situation with our constituents. And I just think, and I think it should go to the zoning board, but I think we need those 2 boards for a multitude of reasons. And they're the, you know, they're the element where codes goes to appeals and to do things the right way. So I disagree with not having a zoning or planning board.
I'm willing to take the trainings. I mean,
Oh,
I'm not afraid to put in the work, you know, like I don't wait till election season to do my job.
As an elected official in a real kind of sticky situation, and I can see that going south real fast.
Sure, and I can also point out that, yeah, I mean, we did lose the Forest Hills development project, which was huge, and politics did play a large role in killing business in our area. So, I mean, I will concede to you on that one.
Hey,
Okay.
I would.
I don't know. I don't know.
I welcome anyone that wants to attend our next planning board meeting. We're holding it virtually. So then maybe you can, get a better understanding. Vernon participated in our previous one where we held a couple of public hearings and took action on some projects and made, I do believe, a difference, some good recommendations and placed conditions on the project. So it was well thought out. each one of them, to be good neighbors and to adhere to our zoning ordinance. So I would really welcome anyone to come to the next one. We're going to have 2 new applications. They're quite different projects. And I would also encourage everyone to then attend the next meeting where we hold the public hearing and do our outreach.
Yep.
And then maybe there would be a better understanding what the planning board's role is and what we do.
Right, and Carrie, when I attended for Boardmanville, to switch to having both, it's a very thorough process, and I think anyone on the council should attend those meetings. He had to go in front of the board, the planning board and the zoning board, and then the city superintendent also had to come. So it's kind of not complicated, but it takes time.
It
So
does.
I think that's
Be
another reason.
The speaker and go over the environmental process. So
Right.
Okay, so is it the council's opinion then, seems like, to ask Nick to review the state, what do you want to call it, the state guidelines, Nick, or the state rules for?
It'd just be the state statutes regarding zoning,
Okay, all right.
the enabling statutes.
So if there, without any other questions, I think I'll, if I may, Paul, make a motion to postpone this.
Until the next,
The next, what is this in? Are we in committee of the whole?
We're in committee.
Yeah. I thought
we're in committee of the whole. We're in committee of the whole.
so until the next committee of the whole?
Yeah.
So that would be Tuesday.
So let's say committee of the whole,
The 24th?
yeah, we'll do a committee of the whole that committee night.
Is that
That
okay, everybody? Nick, does that give you enough time to get a little bit of information, whether we can just swap out the boards?
Well, next week's regular meeting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can do it at the committee of the whole before the regular meeting.
okay.
Okay, good deal. All right, thank you. I will second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. 6120 is postponed until, what is that? November 24th, committee of the whole. Item 4 on our agenda is new referrals for consideration. It's a discussion on tax bills. Who brought that one up?
I'll speak first and then I'll have Nick speak on it. We were approached by the county treasurer about, normally we collect the county taxes here in the city building for them, and it goes into a separate fund. And in turn, for collecting their taxes, we get to keep the penalties. But there's also many expenses that comes out of that we have to pay. We also then generate the tax bills and send them out, the printing, the mailing. So so they have come to us and they want to now start collecting their own. So before you is a document that's an agreement that they start collecting their own, and the inconvenience to our taxpayers would be that they would have to either do it online or do it at the county building and not be able to come here and pay their taxes. It actually, I had Lenz and Fred do a 5-year or do a study on this, and yes, we do collect some penalty fees, but many years more than that, it ends up costing us by the time the paper, the toner, the manpower, mailing out the original bills, the encode fees, duplication and receipts for taxes, and fees to the county for 66 I think it's 6,060 parcels. We pay a fee to them. So this would, to get the information. So this would actually eliminate our fees, and actually it's the recommendation of Lens that based on the numbers for the last 5 years, we operate in a loss, therefore letting the county do it would be the best interest of the city. So Nick, do you want to add anything on that? Nick, you still with us?
He's muted.
All right. So everything you said was correct, Bill. The only thing I'd like to add is this is for the county tax bills. The city tax bills would still be payable to the city as normal course of business. Everybody get that?
Yep.
Yep.
Loud and clear.
Okay.
I know in the past we've had issues with, wouldn't we end up saving money? Because we had an issue complying with a lot of, like, we had to buy special software to handle their stuff, and the county's always offered us their software. Now that we're not handling their stuff, would we be able to utilize their software and get out of some of that?
We'll
Yes.
be fully integrated with their system.
But you're correct, Kevin. That's where encode fees comes in. That's to be able to do that. It looks like we're going to be able to reduce our encode fee by $5,000 a year. So we'll be integrated with the county, and they have told us that they will provide that at no cost to us.
Also, do we still let people pay with a credit card to pay their taxes?
Yes, but we do not take the county, we do not take credit card payment for the county because the county will not pay us back for the fees, our fees for taking the credit card.
Oh, got it.
So,
Okay. So where do we go from here then? You just,
we'll put together a resolution to enter into the agreement with the county. We'll have
Okay.
Nick draw up the resolution.
Yeah, we'll have it on for the 24th.
sounds good. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nick. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. We don't have any committee reports to approve, so I will make a motion to adjourn committee of the whole. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, none. And we are adjourned, and we will roll right into strategic planning.
Okay, I'll call to order the strategic planning meeting for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020. Let the record show that all aldermen are present. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the previous committee meeting held October 20th. Could I get a second, please?
So seconded.
Seconded by Alderman Doherty. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. No unfinished business. So on to new referrals for consideration. Nick, are you still on by any chance?
I am.
Okay, thank you. So we have PL 71-20 by Alderman Crawford to amend the City of Olean Charter Article 3, Division 4 to include Section 3.090 to include the qualifications for a city auditor. This is something that I brought up to you maybe a month or two ago. And so just closing out some deliverables here by the end of the year. And so the qualifications that in this PL is to include a licensed CPA, licensed in the state of New York CPA to the city auditor qualification. So the qualifications, as we in the previous, just as a reminder, for other directors, do we want to call them directors? Key department head, DPW director has to be a licensed engineer, and then our city attorney has to be a licensed, obviously, attorney in the state of New York. And so, in short, the reasoning for this is, when you're looking at the city as an organization, looking forward, it is the recommendation of the Audit and Compliance Committee to strive for best practices, proper internal controls, as well as an expert on the procedures of accounting and finance for the city as an organization. So, you know, the role of the city auditor within the charter would be looking to, you know, expand just managing the expenses as well as investments, but to bring a certain expertise in, certainly we're not audited necessarily by the IRS, but we get audited by the state. We have, you know, had interdealings with the state comptroller's office, being an expert in taxes, as well as forecasting and analysis. The key is to help try to make our organization stronger, as well as more efficient. And although it is recognized that a CPA does come with a higher starting salary, this body, this council is the one that establishes, per the charter, and essentially pays for those positions as we pass the budget. There is continuing education requirements as well as ethical standards that help to provide guidance as well as oversight to the position. So this is just bringing forward a formalized PL on the topic. Before I open it up to other comments, I would ask if Nick, is there anything that I've left out or that needs to be addressed?
No, I believe you've covered everything.
So I'll open it up to the council for any questions before making a motion. Okay, seeing nothing. Bill, anything? Are you?
I know years ago, it used to be this way. And then as I guess trying to get qualified candidates in here, it became difficult. So so it was changed. But you know, you're going to have to pay. So it'll have to be a budgeted position. Getting someone in here, and you know, it's just so everybody has. You know, it's not going to be you know, a $60,000-$70,000 position. It's going to be probably 90,000 or better for this position. So not to say that we should just consider with the cost. I think you know, John lays out some good benefits of having a CPA here as our auditor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I want to. This obviously would not go into effect, you know, for current positions. This would be forward-looking, and we do have a heavy reliance quite often on BWB for you know, and I'm sure there are, if I'm not mistaken, we do pay a individual from BWB to review. Help me out, Bill. Oh, what do they do?
Yeah, they're an independent audit, and I'm not sure, that would be a question we would have to get answered. I'm not sure if we would still have to do that, or if having a CPA in here could provide, you know, make it so we do not have to do that. Nick, you could probably answer that question better than I. Is a independent audit, is that by state rule, or is that in our charter that we have to do an independent audit? Nick, you still here?
You're on.
Yep. Yes. The state auditor or the comptroller's office requires us to provide them with an audited financial statement. So that's what BWD does. Is they come in and, as far as I know, they come in and do our auditing of our financials that we then send up to the comptroller's office. And I believe that it is required that it be a independent audit. We couldn't do it on our own, I don't believe, but that would be more of a Fred or a BWB question.
So I know that we are responsible for the independent audit, but they also provide an additional service monthly to review journal entries, do they not,
I can't speak to that. I have no knowledge of that.
Mr. Mayor?
Fred, you're on the call, aren't you? Are you there, Fred?
I'm here.
Okay. Did you hear John's question?
They have never provided that service.
Who, then, am I mistaken to ask that we have someone, an external individual review? Am I mistaken with that? Review our journal entries?
I think what
No.
you're talking about, John, I think what you're talking about, we do. We have a guy comes in that reconciles,
Yes.
reconciles the checkbooks.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and that's, he comes in for about 2 hours a month, and he comes in and reconciles the checkbooks.
Okay. Is
That
that
was a recommendation of not only BWB, but also when we were under the state controller's deficit financing. When we were under deficit financing, that was a recommendation that be done also.
okay? Is that through BWB?
No, we have an individual, Tony Capito,
Okay.
who comes in and does that.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, that's, the one individual, I mean, you guys know, Ernie Callenbach, he served as the comptroller, at St. Bonaventure University. Most universities even, are requiring, CPAs for their organizations. Most companies do that. It's a standardized process. And when an individual comes into a non-for-profit, even, such as the city, I'm optimistic we can find someone to be our DPW director. We can find somebody to be our city attorney. These are highly educated positions. Although I do know the city attorney is a part-time position. I do think the CPA definitely provides a return over their duration. So any other comments or questions before I'll make a motion? I'll make a motion to pass this PL on to our city attorney for resolution. Could I get a second, please?
Second it.
Seconded by Alderman Robinson. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So next, we have a discussion. And just quickly, Tiffany, was the reason we put this on as a discussion and not a PL for, because we couldn't get it in? Help me out. Usually when we have a sale, it comes in as a PL. Should this be a discussion item?
A PL has to be referred during a regular meeting.
Okay,
So
okay,
it can be referred next Tuesday straight
Okay.
to resolution if the council so chooses.
okay. All right.
Procedural.
So Nick, is it okay at this time to, since the council will be moving forward, we've talked about this previously in executive session, it's okay, is it okay to mention the parties' names at this time, or should I not?
You can. I mean, we're going to put it in a resolution, and then, if somebody objects to the sale, they can follow the procedures that we set out in the local law to object to it. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So we've talked about this. It seems like a while ago. Again, I'm trying to close up some loose ends here. The Palombos, who own the neighboring property. This is 1013 Washington Street. This is the city-owned blighted property that we demolished, I don't know, a while ago. And this is 3 different parties were interested in purchasing it. But the Palombos, Tom and Jason, I believe, that own the neighboring property offered the highest bid. And additionally, they do own the property that abuts this empty parcel. So they offered $2,000 for the empty lot. So it is bringing this before the council to move forward to sell it to them. If any comments or concerns at this time. Mr. Mayor, anything?
No, yeah, like you said, this has been, we've been talking about this and they are still interested. I did have a conversation with them about a week or so ago, and they are still interested in the property. The other person that was interested, who was also neighboring or abuts the property, is not interested, the last word I got. So yeah, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the update, Mr. Mayor. All right. So there no motion. If there's no issues, we will be bringing this forward then on Tuesday. Okay. Not on the agenda. We have a discussion item for handicap parking at 1214 West State Street. I believe this is Alderman Robinson, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I had a constituent contact me about handicap parking at 1214 West State Street. This is the building. I sent out a map photo, Google photo. It's I can't think of the name of it. T-Mobile building right there on the corner. And this constituent, Michael Snyder, he's the president of Southern Tier Security. This is a veteran-owned company. They provide quality guard watch and patrol services. And they serve large and small companies in New York since 2016. They're renting a property, the property that was mentioned. And they are going to provide Olean and the surrounding residents with a training center for their company. And he also states that they recently partnered with a company to provide fingerprinting services to provide local access to individuals that are required to be fingerprinted for employment, New York State, and federal background checks, certain licenses regulated by state and federal government. They are required to have an ADA parking spot. And he was hoping that he could have one placed at the last spot heading west on State Street, just prior to 12th Street. I sent this out inquiring about it to Chief and to Bob DPW, and they both stated that they didn't have any issues with it. This constituent would like to have this done as soon as it's possible if it passes through council. He will be starting his business, I think it was December 14th, if I'm not mistaken. So he just wants a handicap parking spot for any of his customers that comes, and he's required to have one for his business.
Okay.
In order to accomplish that, do we have to remanufacture the curbing in that area?
To my knowledge, that would be a question for Bob, but to my knowledge, there is a spot on the curbs for access on the front end of that, on the 12th and State side. But he also mentioned, I forgot to mention, sorry, that he said if need be, the parking spot can be temporary. So it would be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 1700, so 5 p.m. To allow parking for other businesses and bars, etc., on the off hours.
Why does he need an ADA spot again, Vernon? It's part of his business model, or?
It's part of the requirements it's a requirement from New York State DCJS as part of their contract.
But this is an on-street parking type thing. This isn't like a parking lot.
Correct.
Is that same thing?
I'm guessing he doesn't have any spaces, right? This would
Well,
probably.
Right.
I guess my point is, why doesn't third base need one? Why doesn't T-Mobile need one? Like, why do we need
Because of
this
his
guy?
federal background checks.
I think because he's doing a considerable amount of business with the government, and the government requires as part of their leases that you have ADA accessible parking, ADA accessible ramps, things like that. So this would probably be a condition precedent to him being able to have that contract with New York State DCJS and probably Homeland Security for the TSA stuff and whatever else they're going to be doing down there.
Vern, excuse me. I looked at the map you sent us out, and this is on the corner of North 12th and West State, right?
Yes.
Okay, I know there's an ADA slanted walk place. I think this is one that someone had brought to our attention, and I think this is like a year or so ago, that there's a drain right by it. Is there any way that we could, and this might be a Bob question, move it so it's not right, to me, it's not safe right now. If we could adjust that ADA sidewalk, if you go down and look, you'll see what I'm talking about. That's my only concern. Other than that, I'm fine with this.
I mean, I'm fine with it. I'm just curious if we take the onus to provide it, and I guess Bob didn't chime in. Maybe he was out there for a minute, but I'm curious if the cut at the corner qualifies to provide that space with ADA compliance or not. It's been a number of years since I've dealt with this, but I recall, you know, the space next to that space, which would become the sidewalk, needs to be engineered a certain way. You get what I'm looking at there, Bob?
Well, that was my question. Is this a request for a handicap spot, or is this a request for a handicap spot and a curb ramp? We have handicap spots all around town where people still step over the curb. I don't think the curb ramp is a requirement of a handicap spot. It's not, say, van accessible for somebody who's in a wheelchair. To answer Linda's question somewhat, when we restripe West State Street, 12th and 13th Street is really probably like 2 out of the top 3 most dangerous intersections in the city. We had a plan in place to upgrade those ramps because if you see them, they're all broken from trucks running over them. It's not really a good situation. Like I said, we have a plan to redo those curb ramps, but there's just not funding for it. But if Vernon and the business is just asking for a handicap spot, we can do that. And I don't even know if we need a resolution for that. But the curb ramps, I agree, need to be addressed at some point, including looking at that intersection and why there's so many issues with it. But that's a separate thing, of course.
Have the other businesses in the area been asked about their preference in terms of where this spot is located?
As far as that part, I do not know.
Okay, that would be something I think we should consider as well. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, this guy's a new startup business.
Actually, he's not a new startup business. He's actually located directly across from the park. I can't think of the name of the park. The one where we did the Halloween.
Lincoln
Yes.
Park. He's in the Stifel Nicholas building.
Yes.
Okay.
He's been in business for a while. This is just, like I said, this is a place that he's taking to create a training center.
Yeah.
And to also provide services for state and federal government licensing and fingerprinting and such.
But the T-Mobile place is still open, right? Like, there's still
Yes.
people.
Yes, as far as I know, T-Mobile is still open, so I'm assuming he's renting out the other side of the building.
I would want their input on it as well. That's my only point.
I think we're actually looking into this a little too much. I think he's only asking for a temporary sign from the hours of 7 to 5. And as Bob said, I don't even think we need a resolution, and it's just a courtesy to anybody that walks with a cane or has COPD or whatever.
So why what's the point?
I don't know.
I mean, we can't discuss it in committee as a council?
No, we can discuss anything you want, but.
I got you. Okay.
I had this kind of issue come up like my first year of alderman. Constituents complaining at the Home Plate Diner that they wanted a handicap spot parked out front so that any Yahoo couldn't just park in front. And then they were all under the assumption that they could park there the entire 4 hours they hung out at the diner from 6 a.m. until 10 or whatever. But a lot of people are under the misconception, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people thought they could get away from the 2-hour rule, but that still applies to handicap spots as well. And I explained to them that like 50% of the people that were stopping me at the home plate diner all had handicap stickers. So it's like, you're going to be giving two people. It was just, I don't know.
I guess that's kind of where I'm going with this is I'm not against this idea. I just think historically speaking, and I think moving forward, we need to be very careful about making changes to signs. It's something that might seem innocuous right now could end up being a bigger issue down the road. And if we make changes to signage or parking or whatever, based on an individual's needs, that might not actually serve the entire community or the city. It might help this guy, but it might not necessarily be what's right for the entire city. And again, I know that putting it that way makes it sound way bigger than this actually is, but it's just something to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm. Well, Paul, along that route, right across the street is hospice. And if you're going to put a handicap spot over there, I can see other people utilizing it. So it's not a spot that he's, going to just stand out there and say, nobody can park here but my person. So I think you are kind of opening a can of worms.
My thought on speaking up is just, I don't want us to do something that involves, that seems simple, and ignorance gets us into a spot where a year down the road, somebody has a formal complaint with ADA over this spot because it doesn't meet standards, and we were being nice and just put a sign there. And then we're responsible to come cut that curb and rebuild it and make sure it drains properly, just because we didn't think it through completely.
I'd also hate to wait till like he's opening December something. Like there's no way we're going to be able to. Yeah, we're not going to be able to cut a curb and pour concrete in this weather.
Well, I don't think anybody was proposing to cut a curb, Kevin, but I don't know that we've thought about it hard enough to know whether we do or not.
Right.
I mean, and I think where Bob was going is the guy's not asking for a van accessible spot. It's just for a convenient spot.
Right.
But does that, if somebody had a formal complaint, would we then be responsible for making sure it meets ADA in some way? And I mean, Bob may have the feeling that I just don't know enough, and he's got it covered, but.
Yeah, Jason, shut up.
So Bob, what's your input? What do you think?
The thing that I've learned over the course of my career is that parking is a really hot topic. It's really hard to make a decision on parking because it affects so many people. There's limited parking in front of those businesses. Paul might be right that public input may be needed, and I know this is a requirement for this business. That's more your guys' realm, but for changing parking, I don't recommend it very often, only because it is such a hot topic. But we could always, send out letters to businesses and see if they have any input or work with Vernon on that. And of course, if we were doing some kind of design, I would look into all the requirements, Jason, just to set your mind at ease and make sure that it's going to work for us for the future and for ADA.
Well, we could find ourselves in a position too, where with this, I would want this person to be successful in their business endeavor, but what if they're not in 3 years and now we have a handicap parking spot there that maybe we don't need? I don't, it could be detrimental to the businesses that remain. Maybe it won't be, but bigger than one request.
I have a comment, if I may.
Sure.
My only comment is, he's in business. I went to the ribbon cutting when he opened up over there at Stifel Nicholas building. He's got a good business going. But if you are going to put a handicap spot there, I would stay away from during the hours of, so it ends at 5 o'clock, because are we saying that a handicapped person isn't gonna use that area after 5 o'clock? So I think I think you leave it, either if you're gonna put it in as a handicap spot and leave it as such.
Good point, Bill. Any other comments or questions on this? So I guess this is just a discussion item. It will be up to Alderman Robinson whether or not he'd like to put in a formalized PL on it.
Okay. I guess I would have to work with Bob, or just go down and go door to door with the other businesses and get their input, or is there a formal way of doing this?
I think that would be helpful. I don't know. I've never put in a handicap sign, so I think that would be helpful to get a little bit of buy-in, perhaps from some of the adjoining or adjacent businesses. Bob, any thoughts?
Sure, and I don't want to step outside my realm, but if you do pass a resolution for this, could it be contingent on the business being there, right? If the business leaves, we take the handicap spot out. There's nothing that says that we can't take them out.
That's correct.
I will note though, that this is a code change. This isn't just,
It is okay.
yeah, so we have to pass a separate PL down the road and separate resolution to remove it from the code
Okay.
if the business were to leave.
Okay. So did everybody hear that? If the business were to leave, this is a code change and it would require another resolution to take the handicap spot away. And I guess while we're on that topic, are there any handicap spots around the city that need to be removed? I mean, are there any old, that's a topic for a different time, I guess, to take offline, but maybe if there are some, in our wards, maybe it's time to make that adjustment. But
I also think it would be some interesting research to see what the closest proximity handicap spot would be to that location. Like, is there an on-street handicap spot, or is there, like how close is that? If you're telling me this would be the only one on West State, then maybe we have an issue. Maybe we do have an issue, but.
Well, Tiffany sent out a copy of chapter 24, the traffic, and on the back or on the second page, it lists all of the on-street handicap parking spots. And as far as, what are we talking, State Street here, there aren't, let me see, South 14. Henley.
I don't think so.
I was gonna say a parking shop would be the
There's none on
closest
this list.
private,
I don't think so.
Yeah.
unless the hospice has one.
Bob, when we do a revitalization or redo a street in some way, is there criteria on, do we have to comply with AD and A in some way and provide handicap accessible parking on street to a certain extent? Like over a certain area or length of road or how many spaces?
I don't actually know. I know that there's guidance on parking lots. It's based on the number of spaces. So when I design a street, North Union Street's a good example of this. There's bays, and a bay may have 15 parking spots, and under that criteria, one handicap spot is required. So that's how I would approach it. Some kind of metric base, but I don't know if street design requires parking spaces handicap. I guess if I were, I'd put them at the end of the street nearest the intersection where there's a curb ramp. But if I was, but I think it's really a judgment call.
Okay. And
I know they build
don't-
that into the building code. Like, so it's all based on use. So like Bob said, if you have 15 spots, or like Walmart's required to have so many based on the occupancy of their business, their use of the business, are they a grocery store, are they a hair salon? Like, there's a whole bunch of different requirements in the building code, and it usually falls on the onus of the property owner, not usually the
Well, then I would think for this business as a use that's approved or has a permit or whatever, then they must have some parking spaces designated that they're allowed to use somewhere other than just on the street, right?
This particular company,
Yeah.
maybe.
Or that building, or do they have any other actual spots they're allowed to call theirs, Vernon?
No, because this is street parking. The side of that building, I think, belongs to Classic Cars, because you see a lot of those vehicles parked over there. So the only parking that this company will have, this business will have, is in the street.
Okay.
And those that are listed in our Chapter 24 traffic, all of these are in the street. And the majority of them are, the school, certain places on certain streets, and majority of them are union. Some of the ones that we already know of, like in front of the municipal building, Ray's, Community Bank, etc.
Okay. So, I mean, it's kind of the way it comes to us is because we're an old city who didn't have a lot of parking for our street businesses, right? It'd be kind of like Manny Hanny. That place is huge. It's getting revitalized, and parking's a tricky situation there.
Yeah.
Without a new building being torn down and put up, there's no site plan or whatever to say, hey, you need to find parking somewhere. So I see where this is coming from.
Didn't the form-based code pass, didn't that alleviate the parking requirements for a lot of buildings like that too?
Yes, and the form-based code, that eliminated the parking, restrictions or what you had to have. I think it was like 1.5 spaces for that. So, but that's only in the North Union Street area that covers the form-based code, not the entire city.
And that wouldn't get him out of a federal requirement either for his business.
Right. And I do believe the parking that we put on First Street for the Manny Hanny, we didn't add any handicap spots. That was just straight parking. Remember that resolution not too long ago?
Yes.
I mean, if none of the neighbors have a problem with it, one of those spots becoming a handicap spot, I wouldn't have a problem with it. If they do, I would take the onus off, and also with Bob's aspect, if we have to cut curbs and start putting in ramps as a city, instead of just a handicap sign, I'd say, you know what, let's take the onus off of us and tell this guy, hey, why don't you go rent a spot from Class Cars? I mean, that sucks to say, but I mean, most other businesses are doing similar things. Class Cars had to buy those spots because they didn't have enough spots,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm agreed. I'm fine with it as long as the businesses in the proximity are okay with it. Third base and whatever else is right there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I tend to agree, Paul. Any other questions? All right. Nothing else, Mr. Mayor, anything?
Yes, I have every year, as long as I've been here, and I know a lot before that, we have done a resolution to allow free parking on West State, North Union, and in all city lots from November 29th through January 1st, the 2021. Actually, I don't know if that's the exact date.
That's the I changed it.
Okay, is it the 29th or the day after?
27.
27. We do the day after Thanksgiving, so it'd be the November 27th through January, what's
4th?
I think we first.
3rd.
Yeah, we usually do January 1st, 2021. But I will be putting the resolution forth for Tuesday, unless there's unless anybody has any other ideas there. Just kind of, I know, just kind of give shopping a boost, the shoppers a boost through the city, and hopefully, all the employees won't just take it upon themselves to start parking out there on Union Street, so, and West State and the city lots. So.
Okay. All right. Very good. Anything else?
Hey, Bill, when we do this, it's still 2-hour parking, right? It's just free.
Well, yeah, I mean, then you would take away, the 2-hour parking. We wouldn't be enforcing that or in any of the meters. we would still be enforcing the permitted spots in the lots.
All right, I have a question. Has it been definitive? Is it, because I've received some questions about Santa Claus Lane. Is that, are they still trying to revise and come up with something, or has it been canceled this year?
No, it has been canceled. They tried to do reverse parade where the floats would be in one spot and people would drive by, and then it became a concern of the number of people who would be in the area where the floats are, the participants, and they just couldn't get it worked out. So it is canceled for this year. It's sad, but hoping that people would just stay in their cars. We knew that wasn't going to happen. So it's I think what they're going to do now is that the fire engine will have Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus on it, and they will drive the street. And as they go by the different points, the lights will be turned on, and that'll just be the extent of it. So.
Okay.
They are going 2 extra nights for Santa Claus house, that Santa will be in the house, and that's being they won't be sitting on Santa's lap this year. They'll be just there'll be from my understanding, there'll be a screen up. They'll just kind of wave to Santa, tell them what they would like, and hand them their list and exit that way. And the chamber will keep social distancing and that there. So just something something little. I did notice that local community, Allegheny, is not going to have their Santa Claus house this year. So it's kind of sad, but but it is what it is.
Are you guys worried about Santa Claus spreading the coronavirus? Because he's actually going to come to kids' houses on December 20th.
Mayor, what day did Santa say he was going to ride this fire engine and tour Olean?
It'll be the day after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So 27th, I think. Is that what it is? So if that changes, I'll get an email out to everybody.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing nothing, do I have any? I'll make a motion to approve committee reports. Do I have committee reports, Tiffany?
Yep.
I will make a motion to approve committee reports, seconded by Alderman Witt. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? Seconded by Alderman Gonzalez. All in favor? Aye.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, aye, Captain.
All right. Until next time.
Signing off.
Everybody, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.